Hi, everybody. This is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, Stories of the Supernatural. And I hope you enjoy this new show, whether you're viewing it on the internet or listening to a podcast version of the episode. I do want to thank you for being part of my audience. You can also find links to videos or podcasts on miamighostchronicles.com, as well as where you can submit your story about any eerie experiences you've had, which I would love to hear about. Just go to the Submit Your Story tab. Please subscribe to our channel so that you receive notification of when we release a new show. And find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. This is where I usually live stream and where I give you a behind the scenes look at locations where new episodes are being filmed at. I also tell you about all the interesting guests that will be appearing soon on Stories of the Supernatural. I hope you enjoy the show, and I think you are all wonderful. Hi, everybody. This is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, Stories of the Supernatural. How are you all doing today? Well, it's a Friday afternoon for me here in Miami, and I'm very excited because I have a lady who's an author, and her name is Monica Canducci. And now, Monica, okay, she is a respected artist, author, and a body mind coach. She's originally from Italy, and she currently lives and practices in Montreal, Canada. Now, she's a researcher in the field of spiritual paths and traditions. And she helps others explore and follow their healing journeys by cultivating their own self awareness, presence, and respect. Now, she also helps her students and the clients to identify perceived limitations of dis-ease so that they can find their way to heal and realize their full potential in harmony with the world around them. And I think um, finally Western medicine is coming around to understanding how important that mind-body connection is, especially like what Monica is referring to as far as healing dis-ease in the body. In other words, you can't separate one from the other as far as for good healing. But anyway, how are you doing today, Monica?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy of this
No,
conversation.
no, I
So,
am so happy myself. It's my pleasure to have you on because this subject I think is so interesting. But we'll get. I know you've written other books, but let's start off with your last one, which I think is the one that called the Fairy Code. Okay, and like I said, I know that you're into the mind body connection. Obviously, that just treating the body, there's more to that than humans as far as healing. But this last book that you wrote, um, what prompted you to write that book?
well, it's of course it was free because it was a call. I always felt close to this invisible reality that we
Mm-hmm.
call fairy world or genie world, because fairy and genies are not the same but are
Okay.
quite similar. And it started a long time ago when I was still in Italy, because I moved to Canada only 6 years ago.
Okay.
I was living near the sea, and I felt attracted to the mountains, but not so much. And then one night I woke up. I was living at that time. I was living in a nice house that was a part of a castle,
Okay.
um, of 13th century, very old. So the area was really intense, but
Mm-hmm.
such a beautiful village, small village. And in the middle of the night, I woke up because I heard an extraordinary music in my living from my living room, and
Okay.
I was a little bit shocked because I realized that we just moved there.
Mm-hmm.
There were no television, no nothing to produce music.
Write the music. Okay.
And then I was a little bit, and I felt something. I wanted to go to see. I was sure that I was awake, but I couldn't move, and I
Okay.
felt like fainting, and I felt like I don't know, I can't explain. The music fade out, and finally I was able to get up from my bed, and I felt so strange, and I felt compelled to write the story. I channeled that story. the,
Okay.
the first one in the book, in the Fairy Code, there are seven tales, so it's
Mm-hmm.
the first of the tale. It's not only about tales, but and it's my story. It's the story of a child, a little girl who felt called to the mountain, and on the mountain, finally she meets a fairy,
Okay.
and fairy explain how sometimes humans are fairy people
Mm-hmm.
that comes into a human womb to born as humans, to
Okay.
tell people how much is important to consider our relationship with nature, and how much is important to become aware of our connection with nature and with the fairy world. And
Okay.
so I couldn't stop. I moved to the mountain
Okay.
in 1 year. All
Okay.
my all my life changed. So I met the man who now is my husband. We had a son there, and then he had moved here. But then in the years, so many things went on, and then finally, uh, this last year, another opening came
Mm-hmm.
and revealed to me the Fairy Code. What is the Fairy Code? This is
Okay.
a connection. And so finally, I decided to publish this book.
Okay, good. And I know sometimes that it takes a while, like you said,
Yeah,
years when you have this information or these experiences before you have the opportunity or are even ready to produce the book. I know that.
ex- exactly. And then it was long time because it started more than 20 years ago. So it
Okay.
was a it was a kind of journey for me. I collected so many things and many tales because my way of writing is a kind of channeling, something like
Okay.
okay, it's like I feel this powerful stream, and I have just to sit and go into this. So
Right.
finally, it's complete. So
Right, because this is you've written prior books that have to do with healing
yeah,
and the body mind connection.
yeah,
And
yeah,
do you think that as far as the fairy code is, do you think that sometimes part of disease or what happens to people in their bodies, is it because they lose touch with nature? Do you think that's part of
yeah.
it?
I think definitely this is a part of the journey. I mean, the fairy code is about how to recognize our nature, also in touch with nature, also recognizing what the elements of nature are
Okay.
in our body, inside our body. So the structure itself of the human being as a part of earth, so the part we perceive as physical, and then there is a part of water that is our emotional side, but also the liquids in our body. And then there is a part of air that is the air with breath, of course, but is also
Mm-hmm.
our mind. And there is a part of fire that is our will, but also our energy. And I'm very aware because I have a scientific background. Also, I'm not just an artist, but I
Uh-huh. Okay.
integrate both backgrounds in my life, and so I'm aware of how much our thoughts have an impact on our emotions, and how much an emotion become a change in a chemistry of our body, in the function of our body, in the substance we have inside our circulation. So it's all about this connection, how become our body shape actually,
Okay.
or can determine our attitude. And so this is my research.
Do you because I know that a lot of times what goes on in the person's psyche, their mind,
Yes,
their emotions,
yes,
it's manifests in the body.
exactly.
Okay. And I know that sometimes, and you tell me if you agree with it, sometimes people, besides losing touch with nature, they lose touch with what's going on inside of them, their emotions and their
Yes,
psyche. And then when you
exactly.
have that disconnect is when you start seeing things in the body. And um,
Yes.
sometimes they take pills, they treat it, but they don't address it. In other words, have you come across that?
I had so many
Okay.
strange episodes in my life that actually are all described in the other book in Turn to Heal. And just in
Hmm.
case, well, maybe we can make a connection. I'm not against what we call our Western medicine. Of
Right.
course, I think there is something specific we can use in specific moments of our life. The
Hmm.
point is, when we lose when we lose contact with ourselves, then we lose contact with our inner resources. So
Yes.
this is the problem. And it's not because we have to stay. Of course, I'm so happy to be in the country, but sometimes I have to go to the city.
Sure.
So I'm very aware that we are living with technology. We have to integrate this work,
Hmm.
different dimension in our life. But the point is, bring awareness and presence to ourselves. So cultivate constantly this kind of awareness, and become aware of how much we can draw from our resources before to run to pills, or
Hmm.
sometimes we need both, of course.
Right.
I'm working with all. I never tell people, oh, don't take this
Right.
medication. I'm not a doctor. I
Hmm.
believe strongly that everybody has his or her personal way to to deal with illness, sickness, or disease. So it's not a matter of judging what is good, what is bad. It's just to become more responsible. So I went through different kinds of
Right.
disease in my life, and I was really lucky because I always found a way to restore my health, to come back, or to
Hmm.
move forward to another form of health.
Okay.
And and this is my commitment. I love to transmit this to people. I love to do this with all every kind of art or healing path, because I believe we can do it. Doesn't matter if we need medication, if we need surgery. It's okay. It's always okay, because
Right.
there
It's,
is a
it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both.
exactly. And then we have to the most important thing is what we believe, because
Hmm.
beliefs. So I know if I were forced to do something against my beliefs, wow, this would be the
Hmm.
worst thing I can do for myself. But
Right.
I it's true for everybody. So if some of my friends or client or students, they feel they need this or that way, it's okay for me. It's everything, it's okay. They have to believe in what they are doing. This is the
Exactly. Without belief, people it doesn't. People they don't buy into it. They have a hard time.
yeah,
Let's face it. We're the centers of our own universes. So when for us to, I think, to really integrate and is like you said, you have to believe it. That's where it starts
yeah,
from. Because if you don't believe it, there's always that doubt.
yeah. This is self-sabotage. There are so many things going on when we don't believe totally. This is a key, a very important key, because we have to in some way we have to imagine. We have really to not just visualize, but we have to feel in advance
Hmm.
what we can get from, doesn't matter which path. But if we
Right.
don't believe in what we are doing, it's become strange. If I don't believe, then how I can think I will be better, I will feel better by doing this. So first, find something that resonate with you really,
Exactly.
or make in some way make yourself believing in what you are doing, because it's not, sometimes it's not easy, but sometimes it's a matter only of connecting in the appropriate way. So this is my suggestion. First of all.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you, Monica, have you had clients that after they start working with you, they've had breakthroughs? Because sometimes people, they spend years taking pills. In other words, they're
Sorry,
treating
I
the
lost you.
disease, but they don't. They're always there. You- they never get beyond their symptoms. In other words,
Yeah, this is the what I do, and what is seems to be very successful for my students, or I love to call them students sometimes, because I feel that is something I'm teaching them, because I want to teach. I would like to have the magic wand, but I can teach people how to create their own magic wand.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, the point is, yeah, for sure we can. I had so many people discovering, finding their path to heal, and
Hmm.
it was amazing, because it usually it is a matter of connecting dots,
Okay,
finding really the missing link, and
okay.
sometimes it's a matter of really a matter of words, because we use words constantly to create,
Yes.
evoke feelings and emotion and thoughts and scenarios, and
Hmm.
this is so powerful. So what I love to do is help people to become more aware of
Hmm.
what they are telling constantly to themselves, because sometimes they're
Right.
not aware, and they keep their identification with their disease, just because they
Yes.
reinforce the idea of this just with words or with the mental imagery, and this is so powerful. So when we can
Hmm.
turn this into something constructive, positive for us, wow, this becomes so powerful for healing too.
Yes, yes, because I imagine, and I don't know if you've run across this, that sometimes people have this inner dialogue, like you said, what they tell themselves.
Exactly.
Almost they become they think they're helping themselves, but they're not really helping themselves because they're reinforcing.
Exactly. They are reinforcing the this is instead
Yes.
of, well, this is what our unconscious, and this is also something I point on the fairy code, because
Mm-hmm.
actually what I explain to my readers is that, doesn't matter if you believe in fairies or not.
Okay.
The studies, all the my research, and if we really go into fairy tales, we discover that the language between humankind and fairy kind,
Mm-hmm.
fairy word, is really a language made of images. This
Okay.
is why we have to be clear when we make a wish. But
Okay.
it's so interesting to see that this is the same language our conscious and unconscious sides of the brain use to speak with each other.
Yes.
So there are rules to be in touch with some benevolent fairy and ask
Mm-hmm.
them to help us, or genies, like the genius of the lamp. The rules
Okay.
are the same, almost the same. We can use to create a better communication within ourselves and with people around. So at the end, this is really powerful, because I always remember, and I have a kind of story, but it works in Italian, and in
But
English
go
it does.
ahead. See if you could. That's fine. It's
In Italian we have just one word that
mm-hmm.
is vita,
Mm-hmm.
that means both life and waistline.
Mm-hmm.
Waistline, our
Okay.
waistline, the space in between our rib cage and our pelvis, is called vita, like life.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I have a friend, and she wanted to write a letter to her guardian angel or the fairies, or because she needs more money. She needs more, and I explained her, be really careful, because you have to find the right words to ask for more money. You
Mm-hmm.
have to create an image. And she, oh yeah, yeah, I know. then after 2 months, I called her and I asked her, "Did you get the um, income increase? Did you earn more money?" "Oh no, I'm so sad it didn't work." So what is the change? Did you get any change in your life? "Oh yes, I put on some weight, and
Ah.
it went on in my waistline." I told her, "Look, but what did you ask?" "Oh, I asked more abundance in my life." "Okay,
Uh-huh.
more abundance in my vita." So her
Yes.
unconscious or her guardian angel or her fairies or
Gave her
everything.
what she
So, and this is the point. If you use the wrong words, it gives you
Mm-hmm.
another result. So this is the reason why I always suggest, if you don't feel good, say, "I don't feel good," because fairies, like our unconscious, they don't understand the negation.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you how you say, deny something, you have to evoke it first. If
Right,
I
exactly.
say, "Don't think of a pink elephant dancing in your living room," immediately your brain
Thanks.
evokes a pink elephant.
Ah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So never, don't say, "I feel bad." Okay, you feel bad, and so say, "I don't feel good," because so in this way your brain evoke good. And so
Yes.
it's like, okay, this is what I want to get. I don't want to keep feeling bad. I want to feel good. I don't feel good now, but
Mm-hmm.
so they say it's not so obvious for people, because sometimes we are not aware of this. So
Exactly. Exactly. We
yeah,
use certain words, the first things that come to our mind, but you made a very good point that sometimes we use certain words and we don't realize, like you said, you're talking to your subconscious mind, which is going, taking it all in, like,
exactly.
and
And
you taking the exact meaning of the word even made.
exactly, yeah, it's incredible. Sometimes it happened to me so many times, to find the key helping people really to heal from serious disease,
Mm-hmm.
just because we found the sentence they were keeping in their background mind, without
Mm-hmm.
being aware of how much this sentence, this word, could affect their health. It's incredible.
Yes.
And so this is something I explain the fairy code, because maybe who knows, maybe really we are surrounded by fairies. This is my reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally
Of
personal, because
course.
this is my experience, and I can feel this presence. But maybe it's just me. Maybe it's not just me. I believe in them, but I can't force people. And
Right.
for me, it's not mandatory to believe in fairies.
Let me
But
ask you something, Monica. Did you ever come across any of your clients that, even though, let's say, they came to you because they had some type of illness, something that they were, like you said, taking medicine, but
yeah,
it's just holding them. Did you ever find that sometimes they were afraid of the change of not being sick?
sure. Yeah, this is the first the first big obstacle, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes any disease can give us a kind of we become reassured. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we identify with this, and
Okay.
this is what I learned from an amazing healer from Uzbekistan. She was one of my teachers. Her name was Abiba. She passed away, and
Mm-hmm.
she was incredible. Her first approach was
Okay.
always telling people how to turn to heal, because she used to say, "Look, think of the illness like a visitor.
Okay.
So the visitor knows you. If you turn and change yourself, you change, you transform, then
Mm-hmm.
the illness can't recognize you anymore. And so it lets you free, because
All
it
right.
was, and I found, yes, this is inspiring. And this is the same point. Sometimes we are so attached to our wounds, we are so attached to our illness or diseases because it's
Yes,
like a status, it's like something to show, and we are not aware of this. Of course, is happy to have
exactly.
this or that disease, but the
Mm-hmm.
point is never say I am, always say I have. Always for
Okay.
disease, it's much better because if you have,
Yes.
you can you can also get rid of it.
That
If you
difference.
are, it's a little bit tricky. Okay, so it's it's subtle.
But absolutely, exactly. And you said it. It's the difference between choosing one word versus the other
Yes,
can make a big difference versus
exactly,
something that you have versus something that you are.
exactly. This is the
Big
point.
difference. Big difference because that thing that part of you are is like you're becoming that.
Yes, exactly.
And I imagine that at some point when you don't want to, it's like, are you trying to get rid of yourself? Like, in other words, it makes it more difficult when you don't want to be sick. Because are you saying to yourself,
Exactly.
I want to cut away part of myself?
Yeah, yeah.
But,
This is
but let me tell you something. When you said that thing about what that mentor explained to you about being like a visitor and
yes,
that it
yeah.
no
The
longer
disease.
recognizes you.
Exactly. The disease is like a visitor, and it comes for you like you are now.
Yes.
So if you turn to something else, you turn yourself into something else so that
Mm-hmm.
the disease cannot recognize you and it goes away. It's like a visitor. It doesn't find you anymore. So why
Right.
to stay with you? I don't want you. I want you, your previous version.
Right.
I'm not interested
Whatever.
in you. So go away. So it's really interesting because it's like it's a way to look at disease like lessons, like something having a treasure inside, but it's
Mm-hmm.
something you can let go also, because
Yes.
there is something you can learn from a disease, but then when you learn the lesson why you have to keep it, you can let it go.
Right.
So I had cardiac arrest in two. And yeah, I had it was an amazing experience because I had a near death
I
experience.
was about to say the cardiac arrest. Like, did you have a near death experience with that? Because that's
So
you're very
it was
young.
really incredible. It was a yeah, I'm young, but it was because I was so stressed in I was out of my path and I didn't realize I was
Okay.
so far away from myself. It was just nine or less 9 years ago, exactly 9 years ago.
Uh huh.
Well, and then I was alone at home, and I come back to a meditation, powerful meditation. After 1 year, I was avoiding myself really. And then I realized something during the meditation, but I was lying on the floor and I was not in really in touch with myself, not in a good health. I was too much stressed. So when I realized I had this powerful insight, I jumped up. I suffered previously from fibrillation, but it was not serious. So in that moment, for a lack of blood pressure, I felt, wow, I couldn't manage this, and
Wow.
then I saw the tunnel, the light, everything. I
Oh.
had this amazing experience. I came back, and then in that moment, I felt my heart in fibrillation, and I felt my heart stopping,
Oh my
and I
God.
had this crazy thought, like, oh, so it's not you don't die immediately when your heart is
Oh
stopping.
my God.
Well, I was waiting for this heartbeat and it is not coming. Okay, so and finally I was in the in such a magnificent place, and I had this incredible experience of the afterlife from the afterlife finally, not just
Oh.
Janet. And when I came back, I was so excited for I took time because I had a powerful headache, but I was so excited of this experience
Mm-hmm.
and the insights and this and that. I didn't realize that there was a brain damage. It was very light, but there was a damage. And then I was separated in that period from my husband, and then we
Mm-hmm.
came together. but he understood that there was something not normal with me, and
Okay.
I was not able to speak properly. I was not able to read numbers. I was
Really?
forgetting everything. And then the most important thing was that I couldn't sleep, because every time I relaxed to sleep, my body started to have convulsions. I didn't realize. So I took 1 week to go to the hospital, and they
Okay.
told me, "Oh, you are epileptic. You are epileptic." And so they told me,
What?
"You have to take medication for the rest of your life. You can't drive. You can do." Wow, it was so powerful. I couldn't believe it. I met a nurse, a friend outside. I was
Mm-hmm.
shocked, and she told me, "No, no, no, don't take anything. No, I'm not going to take the medication. I don't
Right.
want." And she told me, "No, no, go give your son to your husband for a week and sleep. Just sleep." I can't sleep.
Right.
But then I found a way with a mental imagery. I
Uh-huh.
found a way to manage this. And in a few months, I recovered totally. So now my brain is perfect. And so I didn't have any more. You can't say that
But
it
that
was.
was they were quick, so quick to give you that diagnosis, which
Oh,
would have put you on meds and
yeah,
wow.
they are. It was in Italy, but then I had other EEG. I had other exam after a while, also because my husband is a neuropsychologist, so it
Okay, okay,
was,
okay.
and no trace of my epilepsy. So you see how much is easy to label something, and how much is easy if you trust your resources. And of course, to have having beside me a neuropsychologist made me feel much better, of
Oh, of
course.
course, absolutely.
but
Up.
but this is just one of my adventures with my own health, and I can tell you it's not so easy to recover. But I never thought I am an epileptic. Okay, this is
But that's how that I can't believe because I mean I understand you had all these symptoms, but my God, that's a very like you said, you couldn't drive. I mean, everything would have changed for you in your life.
Yes, because the exam they took at that moment, they showed my brain was totally was not happy at all. But then
Yes.
in a few months I recovered totally.
Right, right, right.
I believe, of course, in our inner power. Of course, it was my choice. I'm a kind of strange, weird being, but I want always to give a try. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? This is my attitude. I'm not telling other people stop taking medication. No, no, it's not my way. But
Right.
it was my way to deal with this when it comes to me. And I remembered the words of my mentor, and so I thought, okay, so I understand. I am a crossroad. I am at crossroad. I have to turn to heal. I
Mm-hmm.
I betrayed my nature, and this
Okay.
is the reason why this cardiac arrest arrived. Everything happened, and then nothing else happened. My heart is perfect. My brain is perfect. So it was for a purpose.
Okay, so for what you're telling me is something was going on, like you said, you were at a crossroads and you
Yes,
weren't taking the hints that of the changes you needed to make, and your body said, "Wait a minute, we're gonna do
exactly,
something really drastic and get your attention."
exactly. This is
Okay.
well, this is what I learned from my experience, because this is also what I believe in congruence. I believe in consistency. I believe
Mm-hmm.
that I can transmit what I am. If I didn't embody first what I want to teach, how
Right.
I can teach? I can't.
Exactly.
So this is the four elements integrated into. This is spirit and body together. This is what I believe. This is our body is the instrument to express our spirit here on earth. Then there are other realities, but the training, the gym is the body, and is this
Sure.
word. So
I'm sure that you must have come across clients that because like you said, you recognize exactly like okay, there's something I'm at a crossroad. I have to make this change.
yeah,
But I'm sure you've run across clients that they don't get it. In other words,
also
maybe they've had some type of crisis in their health but they never get to where you went to immediately, which is something's going on or something has to change. And maybe they come to you, and I imagine at some point, do you tell them that you need to do some introspection as to
This is
maybe
the yeah, yeah, yeah.
why
This
this
is
happened?
Yes, this is the reason why I take really a few clients.
Mm-hmm.
I I'm a body worker, so I work with structural integration and movement a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe really the body is like yeah, it's like the external the manifestation, the tangible, the manifestation of what we are inside,
Right.
but that it takes a lot be so much introspective to even to will to find what is going on. And
Right.
this is the reason why I have really a few clients, and I leave them free to choose their level of
Right.
healing, because sometimes it's not time, sometimes it's just because you want just to heal a little, not too much.
Right. Everybody's on their own pace at their own speed, I imagine.
Exactly. And from a spiritual perspective, and this is what I love.
Right.
Also in my near death experience, I understood that everything is good. If every at the end, there is really no judgment on the other side. There is
Mm-hmm.
not a punishment. There is no.
Yes.
At the end, also life is so relative. Of course, we have people around, and they can be very sad if we go before
Of
before
course.
a lifetime. But it's really everything is relative. So sometimes we are sad because, oh, he or she didn't make it. Well, no, maybe at the end
Mm-hmm.
they really made it, but through just passing the threshold between life and death, who knows?
Right. In other words, and you make a very good point. In other words, making it, maybe for them they made it like you said.
Yeah.
Let's say
Yes.
that their line, their finish line was, for example, 40 years. And a lot
Yes.
of people will say, "Oh, that person didn't make it," but like you pointed out, maybe their original
Yes.
time was that time that they did make it.
Exactly. They did make it, and maybe they were here to learn a kind
Exactly.
of experience, and so they did it. That doesn't. And sometimes, sometimes I host ghosts, so sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I really feel their presence, and I feel them
Okay.
living a part of their experience, a part of something they couldn't integrate, really passing the threshold.
Okay.
And it's like they need a kind of time in the middle, and
Mm-hmm.
and it is so strong, so intense, such an intense experience,
Okay.
um, to find how sometimes also things that we judge addictions, like with, oh, this is not good, this is okay, but for some people it's their way if they cannot do anything else.
Right.
We have to cultivate empathy, and no judgment, no judgment. We can't be judgeful with
Oh,
other.
absolutely. It's especially like what that example that you said about addiction. I
Yeah.
mean, it is, yes, okay, there's the addiction that the body has, but there's other things that go on as far as with emotions and your
Yeah.
psyche that,
Yes, and sometimes we are addicted to our own emotions.
oh yes.
Sometimes we find unconsciously episodes and people making us angry because we
Mm-hmm.
don't know how much we are addicted to our anger. So
Yes.
it's really subtle. Sometimes we are not. This is what I like of some spiritual masters I met, when they told me freedom is not to be free from rules, is to be free from our ego. Wow,
Yes.
it's true. Ego is what we identify ourselves with, and this
Absolutely.
is our addiction. This is our bigger addiction, because we
Mm-hmm.
are addicted to ourselves. we want to be all the same all the time, and maybe it's not the best way. It's like to,
Well, the thing is that, let's face it, we're ego driven, a person. That's in other words, to tell somebody they're going to lose their ego, they think they're going to lose themselves.
and it's so tricky.
Um,
Yeah, this is the confusion, because
yes,
what I understood is, no, yeah, okay, our self consciousness must become our essence, because it is our essence. We can keep our consciousness of our being, of our nature that is unique, and we can tame our ego, because of course on this planet we need an ego, because we have to distinguish from each other. We need an ego to do this,
right.
but
No, that's
we can tame it. We can definitely give our ego rules from
of
our
course.
consciousness. This is the point, and this is freedom.
Right, and yes, and I agree with you, because usually people that live their lives like their egos are the ones that are running the show. They
Yeah,
run into a lot of problems
exactly. Yeah,
because your ego is doesn't care about consequences, and
yeah. Well, I love really this metaphor. Ego is a horse. If you have a horse, you want to use it. You want to keep it in a good shape, because the horse
mm-hmm,
makes you. It's powerful. It makes you able to do much more road. You can
right,
travel much more, and it's faster. But then you don't want your horse bringing you around when where he want to go.
exactly,
No, we don't have to leave the horse free to do just what he wants. No, we have to be the driver, the rider. So
exactly,
this is the
exactly.
this is the how you say, the relationship. So our consciousness, if we, the more we can cultivate self-awareness, presence, and present to ourselves, to our true nature, and the more
Right.
we can recognize where there is, where our ego is, we can have also a strong ego, doesn't matter, but we have to be
Mm-hmm.
aware of this. Yeah.
Exactly, and I know a lot of people, they when you tell them something like that, it's like, yeah, the like you said, you have to master it, or if not, it will master you and basically run your life into the ground.
Exactly, and this is not functional, because you imagine
No, it
your
is
horse
not. It is
being raised.
not. It is not. It
Wow.
is. It is. And eventually it becomes very destructive in your life, and depending on different areas when
This
you
is the
live your
point.
life based on ego only.
Exactly. Yeah, so this is our bigger addition to
Oh
just
yes, of course,
just
of course.
become attached to what our ego wants to represent, and maybe it's not functional. So maybe just we have just to go a little bit deeper and understand who we are really, and it's much better.
Yes. Yeah, I think
But
that that thing of self-understanding or self-knowledge, that's a lifelong thing. Even no matter when you're old, you're still learning. We change. Even though we're the same, we change because
I you know, speaking about fairies, it's like the secret of eternal youth.
hmm
What this is what I feel, because I'm more than 50, and I feel every day I feel better than the day
hmm
before. I wouldn't not come back to my 30s for any reason, because I feel the more I go ahead, and the more I gain self awareness, and the
Right.
more I dance better, I feel better. It's like, and what I feel is like, okay, probably this way of living in touch with myself and helping people to be in touch with themselves also, it's really a key to health, because what I feel, as I told you before, I can't
hmm
help people to heal if I don't feel good, if I'm
Of
not
course, of
healthy.
course, of course.
So I think managing without dealing with our ego is a good way to keep ourselves young also.
Yes, absolutely. Of course. Let me ask you, Monica, what was it, a mentor? Did you have an experience as a child or as an adolescent? When was it that you realized? there's something here as far as the way we are, the how powerful our mind is and our psyches as to how we feel, and vice versa. In other words, everything is interconnected.
Yeah.
Was
Uh,
it what? How did you turn on to this, or was it that event that you said that happened when you were living at that
no,
location?
it happened much earlier because I think I was born like this.
Okay.
I have so many memories of myself as a child, very young child,
Hmm.
and I felt always in touch with every living being, but
Okay.
not just living being. For me, it was also stones. It was
Okay.
everything was like
Okay.
alive, and so I was a animal rescuer when I was 6. I always what. I was always involved with nature in some way, but
Hmm.
and then I start writing and drawing and very young, and this kind of spiritual call uh, uh, drove me always. I have no memories of this starting because it was always with me in some way.
Okay.
It
Okay.
then because I remember I was wishing I was a child and I was wishing to meet a spiritual master because I was not satisfied with our
Right.
church. It was a little bit narrow, and speaking with the priest when I
Right.
was I was finally 18, and he told me, look, I think as you I think you it's too narrow for you.
So yeah, he realized, okay,
Yeah,
you're
go
getting beyond me.
go and speak with this friend of mine. He's a priest, but he's in touch with Buddhist, Sufi
Hmm.
people, Kabbalists, and this and that. And so finally, I start to dive into all these
Hmm.
different paths, and it was finally, yeah, okay,
Right. But I'm
yes.
sure, let me ask you, what advice would you give to most people? It really, some people, like you said, start out as their children, but that self knowledge or that integration, you can do that at any age. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. There is no age. Every age is good. What I suggest to everybody is always look for good grounding and
Hmm.
good orientation. I
Okay.
mean, we are like a tree. We need to be very well grounded in
Hmm.
order to be able to aspire higher. So
Okay.
the biggest illusion is thinking that to be spiritual we have to cut off our body and our material side, like physical. So
Right.
I met so many people really um, doing horrible things to their body, thinking that it was
Right.
make themselves more spirit to integrate. My one of my spiritual mentors used to say, we have to, if we want to walk, we need 2 feet. One is
Right.
like our physical
Hmm.
side, and the other one is the spiritual. Of course, we have to nourish both. So we have really
Right.
to respect ourselves, and we are all different. We are all different. Of course, we like to identify ourselves with a label. We like to be, I'm a vegan, I'm a meat eater, I'm this and that. No, you have to find your own specific
Right.
path. Maybe this is good for you. Maybe this is good for 100 people you know, and not for you. You have to understand who you are, what your body needs, what your
Right.
emotional side and mental side and spiritual side need. And it's not it's really different because we are all different. So we
Hmm.
are all the same, but we are all different. So
Right. So the one size fit all, that's not a good idea.
and yeah, we can do something just because this is the tendency, the
Right.
trend. We have to. We have my spiritual mentor was used to say, you have to experience. There is no other way. You have to
Hmm.
experience if this is good for you. Wow, this is powerful. It's
Right.
not just if I believe something, I believe because I experience, or because I experienced 10 things telling me I'm made this way. So I believe that things is good for me because I know how I'm built. So
Exactly.
it's a way of yeah, we have to understand more about ourselves.
Right,
Know what?
and you're absolutely right. What works well for somebody does not work the same for another person because they're different. Doesn't mean that it's not a good thing, but sometimes I find
Yeah,
sometimes people, and I don't know if you've come across this, where they want their hand to be held and to be told exactly what to do, and it's like, yes, I can give you instruction, but ultimately you're the one inside your skin, so you're
exactly.
going to have to fashion something that works only for you.
Exactly. This is the point. Awareness, awareness, presence,
Mhm.
and awareness. And so, what I suggest always is be respectful and always think of this double direction. There is
Okay.
something bringing us from the earth to the sky, and there is something from the sky to the earth. And this our body is
Yes.
built this way. Gravity matters. So when we are aligned in a good alignment with gravity, we move, and then the body is free from restrictions, and this is healthy, but not just physically, is mentally. It helps mentally to be more in touch with the environment. Is It's really important to be aware of all the relationship between, of course, ourselves and ourselves inside,
Yes.
also what's outside, and the way we are in touch with the surrounding world, because at the end it's a matter of perception, the way I perceive the word, the way I react to the word,
Mhm.
and then again, and then if I can change my way of perceive some things, well,
Yes.
I can change my behavior. But it's really like
Absolutely.
layers, all interconnected. It's
And
fascinating.
let me ask you, and I'm sure maybe you've come across it also, that nowadays, because everything is so fast paced, everybody's trying to multitask. Do
Yes.
this, do that at the same time, and while you're doing this, you're thinking, I gotta do that, and then we're exhausted, and then sleep, and then hurry up, wake up, and I think that sometimes that's why people lose that touch because they don't spend enough, just even a little while with like calm, like let me think things about
Yeah,
things because there's always something that they have to do.
yeah, and this is something that cut off totally ourselves from presence, because when we are
Okay.
multitasking, of course, we are really in the mind, and we cut off our body from this, and this is, there are some new researches demonstrating how much proprioception, so the ability to perceive our body in space,
Okay.
is related to pain. But this means that the less we perceive ourselves, and the more the pain increase. So
Wow.
actually, it's true that when we feel pain, we try unconsciously to cut off the part of the body that is making ourselves feel uncomfortable. But at the end, this safety mechanism become a trap, because then
Yes.
we don't want to think of this, we don't want to feel, we are so much in our mind and in this,
Yes.
and then it exposes us to pain actually. So
Okay.
multitasking can be really really tricky, and I know the problem is communication is so fast. There is
Yes.
Facebook, Instagram, and this and that
Yes.
in
Email and yes, absolutely.
messenger, and oh my god, and then we are always looking, watching, and so we become less kinesthetic, and this is another problem for our health.
Mm-hmm.
So or we can cultivate really the ability to stay in touch with our body, and it makes us ourselves, it makes us more open to spirituality actually.
Right. Because, like you said, I think sometimes with that multitasking is that your mind never has quiet time because
Yeah,
you're always thinking, like you said, you don't have the time to feel like when it's in your body or think, just like think. There's always the doing thinking, as in
exactly.
I gotta do this, I gotta do that, or I gotta prepare. And like you said, the thinking is, and then maybe your body's trying to tell you something, but you're like, shh, be quiet. I'm not ready for
Yeah.
that. I'm too
Yes,
busy.
yes, exactly like this. And then you don't have feedbacks from your body, because the body at certain point it stops to tell you. And
Right.
then this is the moment in which, it's very easy to lose our health.
Sure, sure. And then, like you said, then one day your body says, "Enough of this." Okay.
Exactly. And yeah, because it was not my nature to do this. I was like in work, always work in progress with a company. And then, oh no, it was not for me. And my body told
Hmm.
me in a very, very clear way. Well,
Right.
so
Right. And that's exactly what you pointed out, that your body doesn't go into full crisis mode and tries to get your attention, but when you ignore it, it
yeah,
goes, "All right, we're going to have to really make you pay attention the hard
sure.
way." And then that's sometimes like what you're describing is you have some type of health crisis or something which you cannot ignore. There's just no way you can ignore it.
Exactly.
And sometimes,
Yeah.
and I've heard of people that, like you said, they have a health crisis, and then later on they'll say, "You know what? I remember feeling this pain, or I remember that, but I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't pay attention to it. I just it was like, no, it's not important." And then of
And then
course,
then it become important at the end
oh
because
yeah, really
we
important.
cannot keep just ignoring the signals. We should get the gift into this
Exactly.
the symptom. When we finally when we accept the gift inside the symptom, and then the symptom has no reason to stay.
Right. Yes, like there's something once you acknowledge it, address it,
Yeah,
whatever it is, like you said, whatever is the reason for it.
yeah.
Maybe
And
it is something physical only. Who knows?
oh well, for sure. If I'm open to, of course, I think there are some things that, but in some way, I think nothing is by just by chance. So there is a reason for
Yes,
everything.
exactly. Nothing is
What
by
I
chance.
see, yeah. But it's also true. Sometimes we cannot find an explanation. Sometimes it's too hard to find an explanation. I had clients, paralyzed clients. Sometimes some of them they have a wonderful attitude, always finding the good
Mm-hmm.
into their limitation. Someone else it can do this. They just keep complaining for their
Right.
situation because it's too big, and so I don't bother them with this story.
Right.
They need to be respected in their loss of a part of themselves. So
Right.
I believe there is something good in everything, but I can't force other people to
Oh
to
no.
accept this if it's too hard for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we don't find explanation, and sometimes we have not to find explanation. Sometimes we have just to find a way to turn
Yes.
lead into gold. This is not easy for sure. There are there
Mm-hmm.
are some there are kind of diseases that are really beyond our ability to accept, and I
Yes.
respect this because we don't we are not the same, and it's everything must be accepted for what it is. Also reactions.
Well, I think also, and I'm sure you've run across it, where sometimes, like you said, everybody wants to know why. Why? And sometimes certain things happen. And let's use that example of a health, something with your health, a disease, where you can ask why, and you're never going to get an answer as to why, or why me. Uh,
No, yeah, yeah, and this is not the point. Well, it's
mm-hmm.
not the point why. The why can be useful for someone. For other
Right.
people, it's not useful at all because we have to focus. We have always to focus on what we have forward, what we want to reach. Because if we look for the why, maybe we look at the past,
Yes,
look
exactly.
at the reason. So we look at behind, but then our body is built this way. We go
Mm-hmm.
where we point our eyes. So
Exactly.
if we want to overcome, if we want to really transform our situation, we have to look at what we want to achieve. This is
Yes.
the point.
Forward.
And yeah, forward, look. Sometimes we cannot come back to our
Mm-hmm.
health it was before. Sometimes we can just move forward and find another level, another way to be healthy. And I found I
Yes.
met people perfectly integrate, even if they are quadriplegic, even if they are
Mm-hmm.
losing the ability to move. But it's incredible what they can do on another level.
Yes.
It's not because we have to be, we have to pursue in integration, like we have to be full, we have to, no. Sometimes surgery take off a part of ourselves. It can happen. And then
Yes.
we can be complete. Doesn't matter. It's not this. It's not just the body. It's our way to feel ourselves and to draw to our uh, resources. This is the secret.
Exactly. And you make a very good point that, and I think a lot of times people lose sight of their individuality as far
Yeah.
as what's going on with them or what works for them or doesn't work for them. And I think that we've lost the art of introspection as far
This is,
as not
yeah.
only disease, just for anything, because we're
Yeah.
always too busy. We're too
Yeah.
busy, and like you said, the thinking that we do is not about inside. It's more about doing whatever
Yeah.
to-do lists, things
Yes. And
like
sometimes,
that.
we don't know any the reason why we are doing all this. This is
Hmm.
incredible. Sometimes
Right.
we just do and we run one thing's out there after the other, and we lose the contact and the context. So why we are doing this? Oh,
Very
this is,
exactly.
sometimes
Exactly.
it's really funny how we can find the
Yes.
answer just when we ask the right question to us, to ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Monica, I wanted to thank you so much for spending this time here with me today. It has been fascinating. Are you working on any new books? Is there any project that you've got coming up for this year or later? Or
Yeah, I'm working. Yeah, I'm. I have so many ideas. Always, always. I'm thinking maybe I could collect all my stories with supernatural and create just a book of these funny things sometimes happen.
okay,
The ghosts passing. Well, my friend and my guests ghosts are enough portrayed in Turn to Heal actually, and so
okay.
I'm always thinking now. I'm a work in progress.
Right
Like
now, believe me, sometimes, but you know what? That's where everything starts. That final, whatever it is, that's all where it starts at the germination, the seed of the idea.
oh yeah, sure.
And but and this is very important because, of course, our creativity, where we get our ideas from, then
Yes,
you
now,
you you nurture it until you get the product. Because a lot of people sometimes they think, and they never execute.
yeah, it's and then what now my call is to create a work show that is
Okay.
halfway on a between a workshop and a show, in
Okay.
which I can dance, I can involve people, and I
Okay.
can talk about these topics, but really involving people in healing. Just
Yes.
so this is my project now. I'm working on this, so we'll see.
Yes. And now that you brought it up, I'm going to ask you because the other day they were saying that one of before many years ago the problem with health, the big scare was cigarettes, and they're saying that
Oh,
now
yeah.
one of the biggest threats to health is inactivity, people not
Oh,
moving enough.
yeah, yeah. This is
You
true.
know, we because of computers and the phones and
Yeah,
everything that the video games, that one of the biggest problems that we have health wise across the board is
yeah.
people not moving enough. And you were
And this
talking
is
about movement, so I'm thinking we need
exactly,
a lot of
yeah,
that.
exactly. Because and this my dream is really to go around the world and to give this insight to people,
Hmm.
like a gypsy fairy, dancing
Okay.
fairy around the world, and bring this kind of awareness and make people able to move and dance and just feel in touch with themselves. So
Yes, yes, of course that. Yeah, we sit too much, not watch TV on the computer at
no,
work.
no,
Yes, I agree. I myself, I'm guilty sometimes myself that sometimes I make myself go outside and say I
yeah,
gotta like, yes, you have to like make because now so much of what we do is sitting down, and I totally agree as far as the movement and also the dancing part. I like that. We need to dance more. At
so
least I
I
think
hope
so.
we maybe we'll one day we will dance together.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. But anyway, Monica, I'm going to have a link to your website on the credits of the show. But anyway, if you want to give out your website, it's Monica dash Canducci, CANDUCCI.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Now, if because if anything, and you're if anybody wants to either have you find out what you're doing as far as accepting clients or your books, they can just go to the website, right?
Exactly. And then it's a work in progress, my website also.
Okay.
But I love to be in touch with people, and I love more to work with groups than individuals, because I know how
Mm-hmm.
much the alchemy in a group can
Yes.
really help people to transform. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm always able to, always happy to travel and bring this kind of awareness also
Absolutely.
around the world. Really, I'm ready to fly.
Let me
This
tell you
is
something, of course. You're a mover and a shaker. Monica, again, thank you so much. Thank you
thank
so very
you.
much. It has been wonderful, and I want you to have a fantastic weekend. Because here
Thank
it's Friday, so
you.
you got the weekend to look forward to. Thank you so much, darling.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Wow. Let me tell you, I wasn't kidding. I'm the first one. I'm guilty of the non-movement thing, just because so much of what I do is tied into um, not moving. It's like that sometimes I force myself. I go out, and a lot of times I know there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, they're because when I was young, I was thinner," and it was because when you're young, and you know what? I fall into that. I've said that, and I said, "Come on, when you have these moments of honesty with yourself, nobody else in the yeah." When I was younger, I was thinner because I was more active. I remember, I mean, going from home, school, go out with my friends, go to the gym. And sometimes in the gyms, but it was like well, there was always movement. I didn't spend as much time, and I know lifestyles change, but activity and by this, I mean because a lot of people equate activity with I have to go to the gym or do exercises or get one of these, you know, um, I remember when I was growing up, sometimes my family, it wasn't that long ago, we would say, oh, like after it was a little bit dark, we lived in a decent, middle class neighborhood, and we would go, oh, let's go walk around the block. And we would just, a group of us would walk and we'd talk, and we've lost even that ability to walk around. And again, I've done marathons, I've done the 5Ks, which are great, by the way. It's a little bit over 3 miles. But sometimes you don't even have to do that. And the reason why I say this, because this is the way your subconscious works. Sometimes when you say, well, you know what? I'm going to participate in a marathon or a 5K or whatever, just walking, not even jogging. Somehow or other, you kind of detour yourself out of that. Whereas just going out for a walk, I don't know if you live in a neighborhood or, if you have pathway or like we did, which is residential and it was after dark. In other words, we weren't really doing it for the fact back then of exercising. We were just doing it like after dinner. It was dark. It was cool. Let's walk and we talk. And besides the thing of the human communication thing that we've lost a little bit, that human exchange thing, um, you walked. You walked after dinner. Uh, there was, in other words, it wasn't like sometimes what we look at is when we look at workouts. I was like, oh my god, I gotta do my workout. It was pleasure. It was pleasurable, and I think somewhere or other we've lost that thing of just doing that movement or that walking just for the sake of walking and making it enjoyable versus something that we have to absolutely do because if not, I got to lose weight or my health. And it was like, because I think that once you do it for the pleasure of it, and like I said, uh, you do it more often. That activity in and of itself is attractive to do it. And then, of course, you do it more often. And you're not either. I mean, nobody was there looking at the clock saying, "Okay, how long does it take us? We got to do it half an hour." No, we just walked and meandered and walked and talked and so there's no clock. And I think that especially if somebody, wants to get into, let's say, some type of routine, and I'm going to use the exercise routine if you want to. One of the most difficult things sometimes for people to do is the consistency of it, okay? And it almost, I want to say sometimes, like I said, it becomes a duty. And sometimes, in order to get into that habit where it's pleasurable, you have to make it pleasurable. Sometimes that's how you do it. Don't measure it so much. It's more of something to be enjoyed. And then little by little, your brain makes that connection, as in this activity, going walking, is pleasurable. I really enjoy it. I have a good time. There's no pressure. I'm not watching the clock to make sure that I do it X amount of time, or that, you know, and this fit people Fitbit, don't get mad at me, but I don't have a Fitbit looking to see, what's my heart rate, or none of that. Okay, we're talking here ground level. Let me get from being a couch potato to doing activity. And this is how you do it. And I mean, this is how I relate to it. I know a lot of people. And then once you make that connection in your brain where it's pleasurable and you go, and of course, what happens is you start feeling better. You start feeling, you might be even sleeping better because, depends. Your digestion works better. Let's say you do it after dinner. Um, your circulation and your body. Uh, in other words, there's no pressure, like I said, for time or certain things to happen while you're doing it. And if you're with somebody you can talk, it's even better. And then to transition from that into, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm going to start making sure I do it for half an hour, or I'm going to participate in the next 5K charity event, yeah, which is 3 miles. It doesn't seem such a stretch, because that's how I did it once upon a time. I was doing as a matter of fact, I was doing long distance bicycling, and some people go into it cold turkey, or some people don't because they scare themselves, and because I would see all these super bicyclists with these super ultralight bikes and the really streamlined helmets. I was like, I've got my Sears 3 speed, and and after a while, once I joined it, I realized everybody's doing their thing. Yeah, you'd have these people like, pshoo, they're gone. And then you'd have the regular people just like me. It's like, I'm gonna do this, and I remember I even have a friend of mine who had a little bike that we would call Pee Wee's bike, because she had a bunch of crap on it, like Pee Wee's bike. And the idea was just, we're gonna get across it. And usually these routes were really pretty, where they would, have them through. And once you do it, and you realize nobody's there to judge you, everybody's doing their thing, and the idea was just to complete it. And I think that that's where you make the pleasure connection in your brain, where you realize, wow, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I had fun. And then the next time something comes up or more challenging, you're ready to do it. But anyway, that's a whole different. But I wanted to talk about that because Monica made a very, very good point as far as about her mind body connection, among other things that she teaches or she instructs on, is the movement. And sometimes we do have a lack of movement. And I think that maybe when we're young, we do it naturally. And as we get older, that's not because of the age, by the way. I'm not talking because of the age. I think it has to do because we have different responsibilities. Our lifestyles also change, especially nowadays because, again, of technology, computers, blah, blah. And I think it's important throughout our lives. I know I feel better. And sometimes it's like that prodding yourself to do it, because you've got 20 things in your mind that you can think, I could make better use of this time to do this, this, and this, and I can sit and do my to-do list, or I could do my this, and I could do that. And there's a point that you have to say, stop, stop, go outside, walk around, do whatever. And I want to make a big, because a lot of people think that, by the way, introspection is great. If all you can do is go outside and sit, whatever. But the good idea would be not to go outside and sit. The good idea would be to, if you can, depending on the weather and where you're at, and if it permits, take off your shoes and get grounded and walk around and feel the grass if that's what's there between your toes. Of course, you're not going to do it where you could, you know, do anything to your feet, but it's like that moment where all of a sudden, like it's like you feel time kind of slow down, like, almost like when you're a kid. All right. When you were a child, somebody would tell you a year, and you'd go, "Oh my God, a year? That'll be so long. That's a long time." As an adult, you said year, and you'll go, "Oh, that's a year." It's like, because that's how I feel sometimes. Here, you know, we're in 2018, and it felt like the other day we were going into the 2000s. When we had that big scare that the economy was going to collapse because computers wouldn't know how to handle the 2000 thing. And it's almost 20 years later. But that's what I'm saying, that I think for our best mind body connection to integrate with what our world is now, it is what it is now. As human beings, we need to have those moments as much as we can afford to, whether it's a longer period or several ones during the day, where we just slow down and we have a moment within ourselves and walk around and just zone out if that's what it is. And or pay attention maybe to something that your body's trying to tell you, which is what Monica was talking about. Before your body goes, "That's it, you're not listening." And what happened to her? She had a problem with her heart, to the point that she went in and she was diagnosed with, because of what happened, that crisis, that her body kind of like, where they were telling her she was epileptic, and basically what she needed was to give her body a chance to kind of like get its equilibrium back. Like she said, sleep, and all of a sudden, like, give your body or everything to, like, which, by the way, I think sometimes sleep is something underrated. By myself, starting maybe sometimes when I was a teenager, I could easily sleep. I could sleep very little time. I would go out. My friends would be calling me in the morning, go, "Let's go to the beach," and I'd be, "Let's go." Or I could very easily sleep till 12. And I've lost that ability, especially after you have children. But yes, sleep is sometimes underrated, as far as how good it is for your body, for your mind, for everything. Okay, guys, I hope you liked the show. I know I loved it. I love speaking to Monica. Again, her website is going to be on the credits of the show. But if you're listening to the podcast version, you can go to Monica, Monica dash Canducci, spelled CAND like David, UCCI.com. That's her website. If you want to get more information about Monica, about her books, she's written several books about healing. And also, if you, I don't know if you, she's like I said, she's out of Canada. You want to get more information maybe on working with her. The place to start is her website. So again, guys, thank you so much for being part of my audience. My true believers, don't forget to send me your stories. Catch me on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram. And for all of you, of course, you can find a podcast version of this. You can go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com. We have links there, or to all the most popular podcast platforms: Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Podbean. Just look for Miami Ghost Chronicles, Stories of the Supernatural, and you will find a podcast version of the show. And again, wherever it is that you find us, make sure to subscribe so that you get notifications each and every time that we release a show, and that way you can download the MP3 and you can listen to it at your convenience. So again, guys, it's a Friday from me. Whichever and wherever you're at when you're listening to the show, have a great day or a fantastic weekend. Take care.